Welcome to the Courting Happiness podcast. This is a space where self-care becomes part of your day. A space where you learn evidence-based strategies to help your life, share it with those you love, and cultivate well-being at work. I'm your host, Dr. Kortni Alston. I'm a former news director, television reporter turned happiness scholar, TEDx speaker, and transformational trainer. I also understand hardships. While working my dream job in television, I lived a nightmare suddenly becoming a young widow after 86 days of marriage. I became committed to learning more about resilience, healing, and happiness. This is how I discovered my area of research, which is positive psychology. Now I'm living my calling of training individuals and organizations on happiness. And my new chapter begins with being happily engaged. The Courting and Courting Happiness is about a true courtship. I like to say commitment with happiness. The K in courting stands for the vulnerability of sharing my story, inspirational interviews with phenomenal people, the infusion of positive psychology, and so much more. You'll learn how to commit to your well-being one episode at a time. I hope you subscribe and share. So, are you ready? Let's get started. Welcome to episode 112. I'm Dr. Kortni Alston. I want to start with a story. Okay, so I'm a journalism professor who is a happiness scholar, and my classrooms are infused with positive psychology. And just recently, they had to prepare their first press conference. So I literally transformed the classroom into a press conference, normally what you would see, or close to what you would see when you're watching television and you're seeing all the journalists covering a story and it's a press conference. In this case, it was in my classroom. And they had to create open-ended questions. They had to do their research on the subject, and that subject was me. So they had to interview me. And so they searched online for information from like articles about me and news appearances and my coverage as a former television reporter, and even this podcast. And so when the press conference started, one of the questions a student asked me was why I always share with them, I am proud of you and I'm always cheering you on. I told them that is a blend of my favorite human and me. That favorite human, my favorite person, is the late Fred Rogers, and he's better known as simply Mr. Rogers. Every day as a kid, I would curl up to the television to turn to PBS to watch this incredible man wearing a cardigan and tennis shoes. And he would walk into his home singing and sometimes sharing a lot, right? Many times sharing a lot. I often remember him talking about how it's a good feeling. I love that song. And as a child, he would do something magical all the way in his studio in Pennsylvania. I believe Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And he would make this little girl in Bergen County, New Jersey, feel seen and even supported. So you're probably wondering, well, how could he do that? Because Mr. Rogers believed in sharing our feelings. And one of his popular quotes, it says it best, is that Mr. Rogers said this: anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that's mentionable can be manageable. When we can talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. End quote. So you're probably wondering, well, really, how can we do just that? Well, I have a great article that's published in positivepsychology.com. And the article is titled 19 Top Positive Psychology Exercises for Clients or Students. And it can really, truly help you do just that. You can read the entire article by going to the episode page of this podcast at drcourtneyalston.com/podcast/episode 112. So in the article, 19 Top Positive Psychology Exercises for Clients or Students, there's the exercise that I want to focus in on today, which is exercise 2, which is the guest house room. The goal is to share how emotions are fleeting, even unpleasant ones can be of value. And the guest house poem allows us to acknowledge and even accept unpleasant feelings. This poem helps to explain that emotions are not permanent residents, right? But are part of our guest house, of transient visitors who can be welcomed in, stay for some time, but then they have to pack their bags and they can leave, right? So I want to read the guest house poem by Jalaluddin Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who have violently swept your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out of some new delight, the dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. That poem, it is just extremely, for me, it's so meaningful. It says so much in regards to our feelings. I love how he talks about how the house empties of its furniture still and treating each guest honorably. And he may be, as he mentions, he may be clearing you out of some new delight, but the dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. I also really value how he talks about be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Love this in terms of this poem. PositivePsychology.com gives us some reflective questions that can truly serve us. And I'm just going to share just a few. It also asks, of course, how did you interpret the poem? You know, what emotions visit you most, and why do you think that is? And how might it affect you if you welcomed all your emotions rather than denying them? Then they ask, what benefits could there be in welcoming unpleasant emotions? And how might you apply the message of the guest house in your everyday life? So what would that look like for you? Applying the message of the guest house. I can actually see now having a literal guest house. I love having, I have multiple inspirational walls. I have one in my home and I have one in my office. And now I can see a great guest house on canvas, right? As a reminder of this incredible message. So next time you're feeling negative emotions, put them in the guest house. And remember that their stay doesn't have to be forever, just for now. And Mr. Rogers, well, he died in 2003, but his wisdom still fills my home, my work, classroom, and even my training sessions, and when I'm sharing my research as it relates to workplace well-being. The lyrics of my favorite Mr. Rogers song says it best. And by the way, if you ever catch me in my car, you might even find me singing Mr. Rogers tune. I love doing that in the morning and actually sometimes in the evening if I want to, break into, if I'm going through something and I want to feel lifted, or even if I just want to feel nostalgia. I'll just play a Mr. Rogers song on my on my phone and or in my car. So again, the lyrics to one of my favorite songs of his says it best. So here it goes. I'm not going to sing it, by the way, but here it goes. So let's make the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? I'm glad you and I are neighbors on this podcast. I hope you remember that your well-being is your most important job, and I'm always here to help. Thank you so much for listening. Let's continue this conversation online. Email us at podcast@drkortnialston.com. That's podcast at drkortnialston.com. Join us on Instagram at Courting Happiness. Don't forget, that's courting with a K. Also, I hope you join our private Facebook community. You can find us at Courting Happiness Podcast Community. Our private Facebook group is a safe haven to share, meet more people looking to build positive relationships, focus on well-being, and create a happier life. Now, are you ready to spread happiness? We hope you subscribe and share this podcast with your family, friends, coworkers, and all the important people in your world. We release a new episode every Thursday. Congratulations on your continued commitment to your courting happiness journey. Thank you so much for listening. We want you to be well, be happier, and be kinder to yourself. We can't wait to see you next week.